Okay, I'd like to call the April 17 Board of Trustees meeting. If we could rise and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you would call the roll.
Trustee Peters. Trustee Novick. Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Goldstein. Here. Trustee Kellerman.
Here.
Trustee Byrd. Here. And Trustee Elders.
Here. So tonight we have Sarah Armstrong here who'd like to give a little presentation to us. So I thought I'd bring her up right after the public comments, move her up on the agenda if that's okay with everybody. All right, so I can have a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of March 20, 2014.
I have a correction.
I need the motion to approve first.
Sorry, can I move it?
Yes,
Do I have to be seconded before I can talk?
there should be a second. Anybody, thank you, Art. Now, please.
Okay. Under Board Officer Nominating Committee, it's, the committee nominated myself, Mark, and Carlotta. That's the committee's, other nominations include Kathy Peters, is the way it should be written. The nominating committee did not nominate.
However,
Sure. Well, these are just the
For
minutes.
president.
yes.
Just a minute.
Yes. That's right, on the minutes.
Okay.
However, being on the nominating committee, Kathy Peters was nominated as secretary, and it's not on there.
Okay.
This is the minutes, will cover the nominations. This is just the minutes of the meeting.
Also,
Submitted minutes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, after I asked to be considered, Mark, you said, so as a wrap-up, we have Barb and Kathy for president, Mark for treasurer, and Carlotta for secretary, that's what you said.
Right, and that's what this reflects. I think
Right,
she's
so I
just
don't know
trying
what
to.
the, I
I
don't know what
just-
the correction is.
the correction is that the nominating committee nominated 3 people. At least that's what we have here.
Well,
But the
Right,
slate
but then
is
it's set
for,
But then the
It
slate
could be
is
ready,
for.
it could be ready to work.
Okay.
it's kind
That's
of
the way I
a.
read it, okay.
All right.
So why don't you, instead of saying slate, why don't you say the nominees for new officers? Whatever as follows.
That would solve
That's
it.
fine.
And the only other is the spelling error that we already talked about.
This is pro
Pro
tem
tem,
versus
yes.
pro tem. Any other comments on this?
Wasn't there also, I don't know if this is correct or not, we closed the meeting to have the executive session, wasn't there? About the trade works? And then we reopened and reclosed? Does that have to be all put in here?
It's on the closed session minutes.
You know, we don't have the time that we,
Oh, so we went out at 7:22, should be on there.
and we don't have the time that we came back in.
That's what I'm talking about. We out and in.
We should have a note that the regular meeting resumed at
7:43.
whatever time, yeah.
It came back at 7:43, we adjourned at 7:44. And we went into executive session at 7:22.
But it's in the closed session, that's why it should have been in the open session that I put.
It's just a record of the event in the open session. Anything further?
No.
No more, can you call the vote, please?
Accepting the minutes
As, should probably make
As
it,
amended.
make it as
As amended.
as amended or whatever.
as amended. Okay. Trustee Elkins,
Yes.
trustee Byrd, yes. Trustee Kellemack,
Yes.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
trustee Novick,
Yes.
trustee Peters.
Yes.
And the approval of the minutes of the closed session of March 20, 2014. Can I have a motion to approve? Anybody?
I'll move to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I know we gotta take out the temp and just make it pro temp.
I call that a typo here.
Yeah, well. Other than minutes. No further? Can you call the roll?
Trustee Kellemack,
Here. Yes.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Here.
trustee Novick,
Yes.
trustee Peters,
Yes.
trustee Byrd, trustee Elkins.
Yes. Public comments on agenda items? None? Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to speak today. My name is Sarah Armstrong.
You want a chair or
I can
better?
sing.
Okay.
I'm fine. Yeah, I will. That's not for a while. I'm the principal and owner of the company Cap Consulting, and I specialize in community needs assessments and strategic planning for libraries. And I brought an example of a report that I did last fall for Warren Newport Public Library in Gurnee, just to give you an idea of the kind of work that it is. And just to give you some of my background, my professional background is very much focused in evaluation methods. My master's degree is in public policy and administration, focusing on quantitative and qualitative analysis. And I'm also a trustee at my home library, Fremont in Mundelein, so I have library experience that way. So basically what a community needs assessment is it looks at different characteristics of your library and collects feedback from community members. It can be through surveys, I've done email surveys, you can do a mail survey, in-library survey. I like to include focus groups in every community needs assessment that I do. And those are with key library stakeholders, so patrons, obviously, staff, board members, a friends group if the library has that, community leaders, business leaders, the main segments of your population that would be using your facility. And that information is all compiled with demographic information, demographic shifts throughout the past 10 years or so using census information. And it gives you a good overall picture of what your community looks like and what they're looking for in their library service. And some libraries use this in their strategic planning, long-range planning, to write your new goals and objectives based on what the community is telling you that you need or that they want in their library service, in terms of collection, programming, other resources that libraries offer. But it's also a great way to engage your community and, have your patrons and community leaders feel like they have a voice here and that they're giving input into what they want from the library. So there are benefits that way as well. To walk you through how I do one, I guess, it's a 3-month process traditionally. I look at circulation statistics, demographics, especially in the Chicago suburbs. Demographics have changed enormously in the past 10 years. And that can really affect your library service, especially in terms of language offerings in your collections and programs. The age of communities is changing and that can affect your programming. So I do like to look at census data and how that affects who's using your services. And then some component of the survey, depending on what the board wants usually, and then focus groups. And then it comes in a report like that.
This is done in conjunction with a long-term strategic plan, or
The libraries that I've worked with have done it in conjunction with that. Usually this is the first stage, and then the board will look at it and say, from these conclusions, where do we see ourselves in the next 3 years? This report in Gurney, the community really wanted more electronic resources, and another conclusion that came out of that was it's a bigger district, kind of oddly shaped, and the western part of the district felt that they weren't being served as much as the eastern part where the library was located. So if you're thinking of a satellite office or a branch and you want to know how people feel about that, this is a good way to find that information as well.
Would this also help us repurpose parts of the building, or
Yeah,
is
I
it all,
guess,
is it that comprehensive?
not in terms of like the engineering specs or anything,
Well, not, but, like, you need a meeting room or
Yeah.
not, or,
study rooms come up a lot in these. Why people actually come to the physical building, is it just to check out books on Leap, or are they looking for a place to come here and study? Are they looking for a place to meet with people? Sometimes business leaders will bring that up a lot. They really, small businesses want a place to meet with clients, and a library is a perfect setting for that, so a lot of times they'll suggest that.
You said, and it went right by me, how do you get to the community to ask them what they want? It's easy to get to what's already coming here.
Yep.
And business leaders is a definable group. How do you get to the general community?
That's a good question. A lot of boards will ask, like, we're really interested in learning about what non-users feel, like, why don't they come here? How do we reach them? And honestly, there's not a guaranteed way to reach those people. If you do a community survey, you're bound to get some response from them, so that is one way. But the thing I tell boards all the time is find out why people come here and what the positive aspects of the library are, and market those strengths to your community. It's a much better return on investment than trying to seek out the people who don't come here. Another thing in the focus groups, I always ask people who come to those, and sometimes non-users will come to those, but do you know anyone who doesn't use the library? Do you have a neighbor who has never visited? Why not? Everyone knows someone who doesn't use their library, and the reasons are usually they think it's only a place for books, they don't see the point, they don't like to read, or they're too busy. So you can spend a lot of money, doing outreach and reaching out to non-users, but you'll typically come up with those 3 reasons.
How big is the array of your survey? Do you go across section of the community?
If you did an email survey, it would be based on whatever existing email distribution list you have, which isn't always the greatest. It's not always very comprehensive. If you do a mail survey, it can be anything from every household to 50% of your households. Whatever budget you're looking at, because that will, the more people you send it to, the higher your printing and postage costs are going to be.
Can it be done inside our regular every other month newsletter?
Yeah.
So the postage is included
in there, yeah. So if that goes to every household, that would be a good vehicle.
We already have the current demographics,
Mhm.
and we're well aware of what it is. And we've been trying to foster that by having different language groups and so forth at the library. Our problem sometimes is the fact that we have a western part of Morton Grove that has maybe a problem coming here, or parking and so forth. How do you know if how would you figure if a satellite would help?
So to give you an example, in Morningport, a lot of the community leaders who came to the focus groups represented people in different portions of the district, and they were hearing those concerns, so that's something they brought up. Patrons who live in those parts will bring it up in a focus group, often in a survey if there's like an additional comment section. Not being able to get somewhere is always a reason that people cite for, needing a satellite or branch office, but it would be through a survey or through a focus group with community members.
To get a response from someone is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, the community leaders that I ask, I extend individual personal invitations because they're more likely to respond that way, and I've felt that that has been very successful, more so than just publishing something in the newspaper or broadcasting an open invitation. Really selecting people and grabbing their attention. I thought has gotten good feedback.
Is it possible to do something like a bookmobile to test certain areas and see what response you get? Have you ever done anything like that?
Like on an existing book club?
A bookmobile. In other words,
Borrow one? You mean like borrow one from a community that has one?
yeah,
Oh, to
This is
try it out.
outside of this,
think
what
so.
she measures.
Yeah. That's an interesting idea. I will have the focus groups in different locations. I'm working with Wheaton right now, and I'm having one at a community center, one at City Hall, the Chamber of Commerce. So physically having the meetings in different locations will bring new people, but I've not heard of the bookmobile.
there are all those things.
I cannot
They're all-
personally drive a bookmobile.
They're all pretty close to each other.
Do you get pretty good turnout at these kind of focus groups?
Yeah, usually I have about 6 to 8 people I'm aiming for per session, and they last about an hour. So I'll have, 10 RSVP, because there's always a couple that don't show up, but I've been really happy with the response so far.
There's more to it than just reading books. You could be
Mhm.
looking for work or other things like that too.
Using computers, wireless
The
internet.
computer is very, very important to us.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we don't have enough of them. Because of our problem here in the building, we don't have electricity for certain areas.
That's something that I would ask though, not only why people come here, but what are they looking for? So computers are something that come up, especially in certain communities, that's more important than the collection itself.
Are you able to introduce, many of the people that don't regularly come to the library don't know anything other than books. So
Mm.
when you ask them what they're looking for, they really don't know what they don't know. So how do you introduce to them to the ideas, to give them the option to say, oh, I would like that kind of thing?
Usually multiple choice questions so that they can see what the possible answers are.
Do you find they're very surprised when they?
Yeah, and they'll write in the comments, we didn't even know you had this. So the surveys are also a good way to
So it's
publicize
a
what you're
marketing
offering.
tool
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, it is, that's true.
So your service would start our strategic plan? Or,
If you decided you wanted it that way, which I would advise if you're at the point that you're looking at a new strategic plan, to get community input first.
I think we are looking at a strategic plan,
Mhm.
so.
It's a good thing to do before you start a strategic plan, but it's also useful when you're writing new goals and objectives.
But do you also go through the strategic plan as well, or is this the part you just do?
Nope, I go through a strategic plan as well. Like the board could have a brainstorming session so we can use your ideas too, and then compiling everything into a draft, and then we would meet again and go through them and see what your feedback is.
But I know you said engineer, but do you do any recommendations within the confines that this is the building, this is our 4 walls, and this is what we've got? It's obviously needs some moving around. Does anything you do make any recommendations along those lines? Space utilization?
Usually it's in terms of if the community is wanting more meeting space or more study rooms, I'll say that sort of thing. My expertise isn't really how you would structure it within each building. But I saw Rick McCarthy came here.
Yeah.
He
Have
was
you worked
perfect for
alongside
that.
him before?
Yeah, I did a presentation after him at Wheaton in November. and he does great work, so he would be great for that.
So he's the building rework guy.
Mhm.
You're the community says we
See what they
need
want,
3
yeah.
more rooms, so Rick, figure out how to get 3 more rooms into. Okay.
So you might work in conjunction with him in a sense.
I haven't worked formally in conjunction with him, but I would be happy to send my findings to him.
Your work generally would precede anything that
Yeah.
we share.
So if we were to use a service like this, how far in advance do you need to, what's your lead time?
I'm just bringing by myself, so I can start anytime.
Okay.
If you're interested, you know, you can get proposals from different people and see, you know, what suits your needs most effectively.
Are most consultants, they're all in the same scope of work? Or you don't specialize in a certain way or pattern?
Each methodology is pretty specific to the library, and my reports are very much community driven. The way I write surveys is very much community focused, and then, so I do the surveys first, and I see what kind of feedback I get from that, and then I use that to guide the questions I ask in the focus groups. I don't think everyone does the order of things or necessarily the methodology the same, very similar, but
Is your fee structure based on the size of the community?
it's hourly. But it could be based on the size of the community. A lot of the time with surveys is manually coding them, so if you're a smaller community, there will be less of that. And likely fewer focus groups than a larger district or municipal library.
Should you make a proposal, there will be your fees listed in there and so forth.
I guess we just need to make a decision whether or not we go out for proposals on this type of work. Okay. Yeah, we're reaching out, trying to learn what is involved in doing all this correctly. That's why McCarthy came in here to talk to us about repurposing. We used a consultant to hire our director, and we got to talk to you. Yeah, so we got to talk to you about this, so it's a great class, so
Yeah.
I
it's good.
think more and more libraries are using this, you know, it's not a traditional place to house books anymore.
Yeah, the evolution is making you
Mhm.
keep up or get faster in keeping up.
Makes it confusing.
Yeah.
There are the PR and.
I noticed they're not happy with their parking there.
They're not.
Well, that
We're not too
library's,
happy with our parking
that
either.
library's got something going on too, right?
Yeah.
And there's some kind of war, yeah,
Oh, no, really?
yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I got a friend who's,
Question.
Sure.
How do you price the work that you do for a community library like ours?
Depending on what, like if you wanted to do a mail survey or, you know, an in-library survey, depending on what you choose, I do an hourly rate. A mail survey is more hours due to the coding. It's all on paper, so when it comes back, you have to put it in Excel or whatever software system you use, but I do an hourly rate.
So basically you'll give us a guesstimate, it'll probably take this many hours, so this is probably the final cost.
Yeah, and it's a not to exceed, so even if I go over that, it's not me.
So, but
That's
your
all right.
guesstimate would be based upon some pre-conversation of what we think we want done, the whole community versus whatever.
Right, I would probably put in my proposal what I'd recommend, but I am always flexible on these things and can negotiate what you're interested in. Yeah, but I can't emphasize enough, the added benefits of engaging your community for one, but the public relations aspect of it. Warren Newport, they're going through a little bit of turmoil, and the lot of the people that are showing up at their meetings are people who participate in the focus groups.
Would you do a targeted goal or a comprehensive? That would vary in terms of the pricing you would do, wouldn't you?
Do you mean
Let's
survey?
say, yeah, a targeted survey versus a comprehensive survey for whatever you would like to recommend for the library.
Yeah, it would, the price would be affected by that.
Yeah.
The village is going through and coming to the end of their strategic planning process, correct? And so there's a lot of data being collected in the community already. We've had, what, 10 focus groups, I think? So it could be the community's a little tired of focus groups right now at this point in time. But I'm wondering if we could piggyback and use some of their data as well and maybe incorporate that.
Especially if they're thinking of doing another survey. Wheaton just did that, and the library included questions on the city's survey, so they didn't need to pay for that themselves. So depending on what they're thinking.
Village is done with their survey, so we're out.
Well, we can't
Yeah.
add to their questions, but
Right.
we could possibly look at their data.
Sure.
If they'd be willing to share, because if they've evaluated some of the same community needs.
We're all part of one big family, I would hope they would share.
Hope that they would share,
No point in repeating the process.
Right.
It's already done.
or at least parts of it.
We could pick up parts, but then we need to learn things specific to.
Right.
Exactly.
Library.
And that's why it's important, maybe whatever they have in their database or whatever, then we can just
Yeah.
cherry pick what we want
The
to emphasize.
demographics would be easy to
Yes.
plug in, but
Right.
then we need a separate
Exactly.
focus group for specific library
Yeah.
needs.
They did a whole section though on community needs, that some of those things are met by libraries, meeting spaces and that sort of thing. So if we could see that before we created our questions, we might
Right.
be able to work
That
with
would
that.
be, yeah, because I know a lot of the emphasis had to be toward drawing businesses.
You would hope.
I would hope.
I think they're more focused on the economic
Right.
growth of the
Right.
community.
Well, that's businesses.
Yeah.
Actually, there were 3 focuses, and I think that was one, but some of them were also just the current wishes for the current community, so.
I didn't realize that.
At least that's what I picked up reading about it.
Yes.
Well, you read more than I did.
Okay, very good.
Are there any other questions? I'll pass around my card. If anything comes up, I love getting emails. Feel free to ask them.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks for having me. If anything else comes up, just let me know.
Will do, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Just
Yes.
exactly
It
enough.
is.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, everybody in the library community seems to be related.
It's looking that way.
Yeah, it's just, they all know one another.
Look at
so-
that name in the middle.
Yeah.
Just asked. It's his
Yeah.
daughter.
Did we use that one? Chemistry, yeah?
Yeah, it's his daughter.
Yes, his whole family is in the library, is in the business of libraries. His son-in-law is going to get a master's degree in library science, and she's into it. They're all, it's what they do. So, president's report, I do not have one, though this will be the last time I sit up here as the president, so we'll switch out to the executive committee today. I do appreciate everybody's support, and I think we're going in the right direction, so whoever comes up here, keep it up, so I will support you. Treasurer's report.
Not reflected in this month's treasurer's report is the $200,000 that we did vote to invest in PMA last month at the meeting has been invested. And so that's not reflected on the PMA numbers as of this month. We did have a $300,000 investment that was rolled into this month. I know that we're going to be making some changes as far as building bills. And so, if you look at the PMA report, you can see when the various instruments come due and how much money will be available for the board for use at that time. My recommendation is to keep the money in an interest-bearing account, which PMA does, and we have enough lead time that we need it. We also have enough flow into any funds working cash fund that can be repaid, just to make the numbers balance out. We received $1.1 million in property tax receipts this month. And so we have about half of the expected monies for the year has come in-house from the state. And Deborah will be deciding how much and if and how much of that money will be put for one amount of time into interest-bearing accounts. She has a little more time to get that duck in the row. Does anybody have any questions about the income statement? Or any of the checks? Mark, you need, Paul, you need to
I
have.
always say.
I would feel ignored if you
I
didn't.
always get into things always come to my mind. What is Midwest Tape? We seem to send them a check every week.
We get a lot of audiovisual material from them and all kinds of stuff.
The other thing that I looked at that was new is Cook and Kosher Insurance Group. I've never seen that before.
Which,
First page, 311, March 11th.
Cook and Kosher.
Yeah, how do
Near
they
the
insure
bottom.
us?
They're, all of our business insurances, comprehensive liability. And Pam changed to them a year ago
Okay.
from someone that had been here for many years, and I heard from both of them, like my first week here. And so they came by and it went up about $5,000, it's still $5,000 cheaper than the previous insurance agent. Next year I will talk to both of them, but I wasn't ready to
No.
do that out, so we just renewed what we had.
That's a liability type.
It's all of the business insurance.
And I would Baker and Taylor books is exactly what it
that's
says.
exactly what it is. And there are, the reason you see so many is that there's
E-books?
different,
I'm just thinking, are we transitioning, is that why it's?
No, they're in separate categories depending on what department they belong to. So there's a Baker Taylor 1 and a 2 and a 4 and a
Yes.
7 and a, yeah. And it just has to do with the sub-accounts within the library, but it's all book materials.
Thank you.
And it might be 17 cents of interest in special education. So if that is the end of that, I would like to submit this report.
All right, I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I move to accept the treasurer's report.
And a second.
I'll second
No further discussion on this. Can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Elbers?
Yes.
Trustee Burden? Yes. Trustee Kellerman?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein?
it. Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Mulder? Yes. Trustee Peters?
Yeah.
All right, committee reports, finance, we heard from. Building and grounds, no meetings. Policy, no meeting in the last month. Our staff report from our director.
I just have a couple things to highlight. You've already seen, we mentioned that Sarah is leaving, she's moving to California. So.
The winter was too much.
Partly, that's part of the reason I think. So we've been collecting applications and resumes for that position. We wanted, the position's over one more week and then we'll be interviewing for that. In the meantime, we've decided to have Melissa Mayberry start supervising our shelvers. The circulation manager was supervising both shelvers and clerks. It was an awful lot for one person to supervise, so we split that responsibility up. And she's been trained by Sarah the last couple of weeks to take that responsibility on. Let's see, also, we've settled on August 22nd as Staff Development Day, and we're looking right now for speakers and plans for that day. We'll be doing some security training, probably becoming a code Adam library, so we're hearing a little bit more about some of that. And lastly, this probably should have ended up in unfinished business. Kevin did not get an answer from the firm about the Weber trademark, so he would like to do the cease and desist letter for that. We also did discover, there's another website called thewebberry.com that also probably is breaking the trademark, so there's a couple of things to go after there.
Go get 'em.
So that's all I have other than what I gave you in print. Any questions about the?
I have a question.
Sure.
And I probably should have asked this 2 years ago. How's this written report used?
What?
The written report?
It's to keep you updated.
This
on-
is our update,
It's just for us?
and it also gets posted to the website as part of the board
Okay,
meeting.
there's just so much in it seems.
It is right now kind of busy, and I went by the format that you're used to. I may try to condense
It's
that.
pared down quite a
Compared
bit
to
from
what
what
it
it was.
Oh, really?
Our first ones
It was
were
in
90
each.
pages.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's
It was-
ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is considerably condensed.
Yeah.
What I hope you look at are the circulation numbers, the highlights of what some of the staff are doing, some of the programs that are really exciting.
And it's not that I don't look at it, I'm just wondering if there's some way we can use it as a marketing tool or something along those lines.
How so?
Well, I just wanna see a lot more attempts at getting articles in the paper.
You know what, I brought a whole file for when we get
Yeah,
done.
We
I'm
actually-
anxious to see it.
She's actually being much more proactive in getting
I
this out.
understand that, I was just thinking that some of this material maybe is worthy of,
I did use a couple of the pictures that are in there and sent them on, so we're gonna start doing more of that.
We are hosting the Chamber of Commerce here in
is that
May,
going to be, okay.
May 20. It's the date of our May board meeting.
May 17th maybe or something
Yeah.
like that. And so right after that, we'll sit down and have a board meeting.
Yes,
Chase
yes,
them all
pretty
out
much.
and-
You people go, you people sit down. So, yes.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get them over here, so that's a first, so I
What's the
think it'll be
time- What's
good.
the time on it?
They run 5 till 7.
Would you want,
generally.
How many of us would you want over here?
You're all welcome. The library is a member of the library is a member of the chamber, which makes us all members. So we are trying to get some PR.
Is there gonna be any specific presentation by the library or to the chamber?
Not a formal sit-down, here we are, but we're working on a brochure about our services for businesses. We're working on a PowerPoint that will show off some of the things we have going.
But if I was,
You know, we talking about that
Things-
business card that we didn't know about.
yeah, the business card that we didn't know about.
Yes, and that will be in the brochure.
Your business can get a library card.
I saw that.
It's
I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
And we have ordered that fancy scanner fax machine. We'll show that off that night. We
Ah,
should
great.
have that kids by then. Business can use that, so.
Terrific.
Gee, I want to come and find out.
Yeah, I'll double check the date. Anything further?
That's it for the moment.
They do, well, they have the 3D printers
That's
are
our-
very
that's-
popular.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
And prices are coming down, you never know.
Yeah, eventually.
Mhm.
Okay, anything from corporate council tonight?
You know, I don't have a formal report, but informally, I will say that I've been having some fun with Hoopla lately.
Oh, good.
You?
So try it out, it's kind of interesting, all the stuff that's available. Some of it's dated, can bring back memories of your younger days, but there's some newer stuff out there.
All right. Takes us to the unfinished business, the election of officers. So, last meeting, we left off with Barbara Novick and Catherine Peters for president, treasurer, Mark Albers, secretary Carletta Gonzalez. Does anybody else want to put in a name for any other position?
I would like to reinstate my initial, nomination of Kathy Peters as secretary, if she'd be willing to accept that nomination.
That's up to Kathy, so, I mean, if she wants to.
This is a very interesting conundrum, isn't it?
Well, it's a matter of, when Art and I sat down, we did nominate you as secretary, and I still feel that you should be, not you should be, but I think that you should be nominated for secretary in view of our discussion about your qualifications and the terrific work that you've done as the secretary, the amount of work that you've put into it.
Thank you very much.
I think as a member of the executive board, it would be a good thing.
Thank you.
Do you want, well, I mean, it's up to you whether or not you want to be considered for secretary. And can you be considered for 2 spots?
Why not?
You can't hold 2 spots, but
You have to give up one or the other.
you have to.
If by some chance you were elected to both.
Yeah, so I put together a ballot that allows you to do a write-in. You can also just say yay or nay. If we say, you know, the person for position, it's up to what you want to do. But you could write in Kathy under secretary, X this off, return the ballots back to Paul, he'll read them out. Good with that?
I'm good with it. If
I'll
anybody else is-
take one and pass them along.
I would ask that the next time we do this, that the people who are actually nominated by the nominating committee be put on the ballot. And I would also ask that the next time you do this, that the nominating committee follow the regulations of the Open Meetings Act and post it and have a public meeting and keep minutes.
I didn't hear what you had to say.
What I said was, I would hope that next time we do this, that 2 things happen. One, that the people that the nominating committee actually nominate actually are truthfully have their names read out as being nominated. And 2, that when a committee meets, any committee of this library meets, it's a public meeting. An agenda has to be published, minutes have to be kept. And I'm asking that next time, that we please do things the right way, the honest way.
There is nothing dishonest. And 2 trustees can meet. And 3 cannot.
3 never did.
Correct. So they didn't violate an open meeting.
You know, they're a committee. A committee, no matter the size of the committee, has to have an agenda. It's an open meeting.
I'm not sure about that.
I am.
As a nominating committee, I'm not sure about that because that's,
That's a private
it's a
discussion.
private
It's
discussion.
not.
So did you want them to follow the bylaws precisely?
The bylaws did not say it's an open meeting.
No, the law does. The Open Meetings Act does.
Are you saying that the nominating committee of 2 people should be open meeting?
No matter how big if it's a meeting of a full committee, no matter what the size of the committee is, yes.
Who they go immediately go into executive session then?
You have, well,
They would have to.
yeah. Right.
They could meet, they could go into executive session,
Come out and go home,
they could do that.
and there's your open meeting.
Exactly so.
Still should be done.